Um, Maybe another 2 minutes and hope some more people join us. Hi, Ravi. Thank you all for being here. Kind of looking forward to sharing some of my experiences with you guys. Hello to all of you who are joining in right now. Um, we will be starting soon. One small ball. Okay, hello. Um, all right, I guess we will just get started and people can just join in whenever it's possible for them. So, hi everyone, my name is Raeesa, and you may or may not have seen me before, but I have done a previous live Q&A session with the Addictive Brain. Hi, Chinmaya. Um, so I am based in the United States right now, and I moved to the US around more than 10 years ago now. So it's been a while. I did my master's in oh, it is my third live session. That's right. Thanks for reminding me, Chinmaya. Um, so I moved to the US 10 years ago, and I did my master's in science in cell and molecular biology, and then I went ahead and did my PhD in pharmacology, and then after I finished my PhD, I was working as a postdoc at the University of Kansas Medical Center, right up to like a few months ago. And I recently finished that, and as I was trying to wind up with my PhD, I was thinking about what career paths I could follow after that, and that's how I started first doing informational interviews, and that's what we'll be talking about today in this live Q&A session. So as I'm talking, I have some like really basic material prepared, and some of the experiences that I had. But if as I go along, if you guys have any questions, please type them in, and I'll try and answer them as we go along. So yeah. Um, so most of my research t- uh, till now had been focused on the brain. So during my PhD, I did research on stroke, and then during my postdoc, I was doing research on traumatic brain injury, and it's something that I really liked. But I felt like that's not, doing research full time wasn't something that I wanted to pursue for the rest of my life. Oh, my camera is sideways. Thank you for letting me know. How about that? Is that better? Yes, maybe. Okay. Hello, Louis Malayala. Thank you for thank you for letting me know that my camera is sideways. All right. So yeah. So thank you. That's much better. Okay. So I figured that research is not really something that I wanted to keep doing for the rest of my life. And I started thinking of things that I was interested in and I was also good at that I could, maybe leverage into a different career path that was still related to science, but just not at the bench. So I did a little bit of introspection and I spoke to a few people and realized that talking about science and writing about science is something that I really, really enjoy, and that, well, people say that I'm fairly good at. So let's go with that. And I started looking at career options that would let me use my scientific knowledge but then also integrate that with some writing and communication skills, and a few options started popping up. Some of them were medical writer or medical science liaison, and I started digging a little bit more deeper into those options. Um, and you can find a bunch of stuff on the internet these days. Like, there's nothing that you cannot find. But the beautiful part about informational interviews is that you get to talk to a real person who's been doing this thing that you think you're interested in, and getting that first-hand knowledge is just fabulous. So let me just start off by defining what an informational interview is. So for me, an informational interview is an informal conversation with someone who is in the field or in the career that you are interested in. And having said that, let's also state up front what it is not. An informational interview is not something where you can ask someone for a job referral. This is just going to be something that, hello, everyone who's joining in. Thank you all for being here. I just, we were just getting started. I presented like a little bit of background on myself and was discussing how I think informational interviews have been useful to me till now, trying to figure out what career path I should be choosing now that I've finished with my postdoc. So as I was discussing, an informational interview is going to be a conversation that you have with a person who is working in the field or in the career that you are interested in. And it is not about getting a job referral. So this is just an effort that you are making to better understand the nitty-gritties of a profession or of a career or of an organization that you can then use later on when you apply for a job. What an informational interview is not. So an informational interview is not asking a person for a job referral. If the person that you're talking to offers you that, that's fine, but I don't think it should be something that should be your agenda when you ask for an interview. Okay, so what and I may have like briefly touched on this. What is the purpose of an informational interview? It is supposed to give you an insight or provide you with a glimpse of the realities of working in a particular job, something that you are probably not going to find just by reading stuff on the internet or by reading books about something, but where you actually have to talk to someone to really try and understand what what the responsibilities of that position involve, and what the day-to-day activities are in that position. It is supposed to help you prepare for a career in one or with your chosen in one of your chosen career paths. So Lewis is asking, who is the interview with? Yes, that's a very important question, and I will be coming to it shortly. But thank you. Keep those questions coming. So the informational interview is going to help you understand what you have to do if it's a slightly different career than what you were doing right now. So for me, I was a scientist, and I am trying to go into a career where that's related to writing, medical writing, or medical communication. And I am trying to understand what extra preparations I have to do to get into that career path. So an informational interview is a really good place to start that conversation. Like I said, it's going to also say you're interested in working for a company X, and you really want to know what it is like to work for that company, what the culture of the company is, or what the hierarchy is, and how they prefer to hire people, and do they prefer to hire people from within their ranks, or are they open to hiring people from outside, and things like that. So if you want to know more about a particular organization, then an informational interview is also going to be very, very useful. And like I mentioned, for someone like me who is trying to branch out into a slightly different career right now, It is also useful to understand what other career paths might be out there. So get a little feel of their swag. Yes, that's right, Louis. um, yeah, so it's going to help you get a feel for what other career paths are out there that might be relevant to you, that might use the skills that you have and align with, your values and your goals of the future, that you might not have known about or might not have come across in your research. And ultimately, this is it's think of it as a stepping stone. It's the first step to initiate a professional relationship with someone and to help you expand your network. So that's one of the most important parts about an informational interview. So when should you be having informational interviews? If you are in the very early stages of trying to figure out what it is that you want to do with your life, I don't think an informational interview is going to be super helpful, because the person that you talk to, hello, science facts, uh, yeah, initiate relationships. Yep, glad you like that language. Um, yeah, so if you're like in the very early stages of trying to figure out what it is that you want to do with your life, you are just going to come across as confused. If you talk to people at that, I'm not saying that you shouldn't talk to people at that time, but that's a different set of people that you should be talking to at that stage where you're trying to figure out what it is you're good at and what you'll really enjoy doing, and what it is that you should be doing with your career. You're not a scientist. Well, informational interviews are not only for scientists. I am going with this because that's the angle that I have been pursuing, because that's what I have been doing with my life. But an informational interview is for anybody at any stage in their career, no matter what you're doing. So just I may be talking about it with a scientist perspective, but know that this is not only for scientists. This is for anyone. Even if you are a graduate student right now, or if you're trying to get into graduate school, informational interviews can also be helpful to you at that point. If you're, trying to figure out that whether you should be going to graduate school, talk to some people who are already in there, and try to figure out why they decided to go to graduate school, and if those are the reasons that you should be thinking about when you are making your decisions. So it's anything that you want to know about, this is a good platform for that. So what do you want to say in short? I don't think this is going to be a short conversation. All I can say is the short answer to what an informational interview is it's an interview where you're trying to get information from someone who is in the field that you're interested in, and try to figure out how you can use that information and implement it in your own life. I guess that's my short answer. Science facts 2K. I am from India, yes. I'm not in India right now. I am in the US. I've been here for 10 years, but you're right. I'm from India. Okay, so what were we talking about? When should you have an informational interview? Not at the very early stages of when you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, but once you have narrowed it down to a few options, I think that is a good time for you to start thinking about and scheduling informational interviews with people who are in careers that you think you might be interested in. What's my background? I guess you probably missed a little bit of my introduction. I have a PhD in pharmacology, and I did research on stroke and traumatic brain injury. So I have like this mix of a neuroscience and pharmacology background that I'm trying to pivot and integrate with my writing and communication skills, and hopefully pursue a career either in medical writing or medical communications. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now. So once you have narrowed down a few options, once you know a few avenues that you might be interested in, so for example, you have decided that you really are good at sales, you're good at talking to people, you're good at convincing people and selling stuff to them, and you want to know about, what career options might be available to you in that avenue, how you can use your skills and combine that with sales. um, you may want to talk to some people who are actually doing that and can tell you about their daily life, and maybe even other career paths that might involve sales that you can look into further. Afisoon asks, what skills and qualifications do you have for going to science communication? Um, so in terms of skills, I feel like graduate school and postdoc offers a lot of opportunities for someone to pursue science communication, because you end up writing a lot of stuff related to science. You write manuscripts, and so you write papers, or you present your research to different audiences, you go to conferences, and you meet all of these different people. So there's a lot of opportunities in graduate school and as a postdoc that you can leverage for a career in science communication later on. And if there's opportunity, like if that's something that you're interested in, I think graduate school is a really good place for you to get started, because you can do all of these things alongside of research and getting a degree. So it's not like you have to pay to get that extra experience or something. Where has my interview experience been? I will talk about a few of them briefly. I'm sort of trying to, I may, based on the material that I've prepared, I've tried to integrate my interview experiences into it. So I will be talking about some of them as we go along. So once you have narrowed down a career path, that's when you want to talk to professionals in those careers about what some of the next steps should be. What's your approach to reach out for information to someone not within your network? We will also come to that. I just want to let's actually jump into that. So let's jump into how you should set up informational interviews. The first step to that is going to be to identify the people that you want to interview. So like I said, once you have narrowed down those few career paths or avenues that you're interested in, you may want to go about finding the people that are in those careers that you want to talk about. So how do you identify these people? I would say you should start with the people that you're most familiar with. Start with your friends, family, your boss or supervisors or mentors. That's always a good place to start, because you're going to be most comfortable sharing things with people that you already know. And they may not be the ones who are helping you, but they will know people who may help you. So okay. Louis, I hope I hope your room is not really on fire and that you're just thirsty, but okay, be back soon. um, so start with people that you're familiar with, even if they are not in the field that you intend to pursue, but let them know that this is what you are looking for, because then they will be keeping an eye out for to make those connections for you. They'll help you get in touch with people that they may know, that may help you in your career search. um, so that's I think that's where you can start with first. Friends, family, mentors, supervisors, bosses, ex-bosses, friends you haven't been in touch with for a while. This may be a good opportunity for you to get in touch with them and tell them that you're trying to pursue something new in your career, and that you may you want to reconnect with them for that. Another good place to start is a lot of schools have alumni. they have a record of their alumni, where their alumni have been placed after they graduated, um, stuff like that. So you can, based on those, what do you call them, alumni directories, you can get a hold of people who are doing things that you would like to be doing, and who have, because they have also graduated from your school, they also share a lot of the same experiences that you have, and how they have used those experiences to get to where they are now is going to be really useful to you to understand. So school alumni directories, or if you are part of some professional societies. So for me, I was part of the Society for Neuroscience, or National Neurotrauma Society. All of these professional societies, they also have career development events that often call in experts from outside who are in different careers, and that's a great place to meet these people and make these connections, and get to know more about them by connecting with them after that career development event has taken place, where you can further build up that relationship. Can you talk about something on scholarship abroad? I am not so that that's a very broad question, and it may not be relevant to what we are talking to right now. But I will be happy if you connect with me on Instagram. My handle is Raeesa_G, and if you send me a DM, I will answer that question for you. Are the experts in the field always easy to approach? Why should they help me in the first place? So a lot of people, they have been through what you have been through, right? They have lived through it, so they understand the struggles, and a lot of time they are just willing to help. That's why you have these experts who come into universities to talk to students about how they have transitioned into a field that they thought was very difficult to get into, and those kinds of situations or settings are very conducive, I would say, to connecting with experts in the field, because they're already there to help you. So they're going to be much more open to connecting with you in that situation. How is the job situation in the US for immigrants without green card or citizenship? Isn't that the $1 million question? um, I, I would say, I don't know, I would say it depends. So that's where I guess having this network in place is having this professional network in place is useful, because sometimes if someone that you have spoken to, you've made a really good impression on them, then your immigration status is not going to matter. If they think you are a really good fit for a position and they know you enough, they will vouch for you and they will try to get you in that position, irrespective of what the other hurdles might be. Um, do you think the postdoc experience was necessary for this transition? For me, my postdoc has helped, but I don't think it is absolutely necessary. You can get all of the same experiences that I got during my postdoc during your PhD. So I made the mistake of not taking up those opportunities during my PhD. But if you are very clear about what it is that you want to do with your life, you can grasp those chances in graduate school itself. You don't really have to do a postdoc. um, a lot of the times, unless you want to stay in academia, a postdoc has, depending on, again, I guess it depends on what career path you're going into. um, but a lot of times, your graduate school experiences can be very useful in getting you that next job that is not in academia, I think. And then again, you have to make those connections to help you understand how you can showcase those skills that you have gained in grad school, to show people that you don't really need a postdoc experience, that you already have the relevant skills for this job right out of grad school. And that's where informational interviews are important as well, where people can tell you, sometimes you don't know that you have these skills and you need someone else to tell you that. And hearing it from someone who is already in the field, it's a highly validating experience. All right. And so someone had asked me how to reach out to people who are not in your network. And for that, I just have to say that the internet is a beautiful, beautiful thing because it helps you reach out to so many people that you would not probably have met otherwise, just in your daily life. And LinkedIn, I have found, is a very, very important tool in that, because it is a professional network. You know that you're going to find a lot of people on there who are in fields that you want to pursue. So just doing a quick search on LinkedIn for some of the terms or professions that you may be interested in, and you limiting it down to either the geographical area that you are in or that you intend to move to. Those kinds of things can help you connect with other like-minded individuals in the professional sphere. How did you decide that writing or communication will be something you'll enjoy? What helped you narrow down your choices for career? So that is a combination of self-reflection and kind of trial and error sometimes. There's actually a very cool free resource that is online, that is offered by Science Magazine. It's called My IDP Careers. So it helps provide you with a framework to decide what it is that you're good at, and that you can use as a career path. So you have a bunch of questions that you have to answer. So it's a process where you have to rate yourself on a bunch of skills and how good you think you are in those things, and rate some of the values that are on there. So if say for example helping people is one of your goals, how you can use that with your scientific skills and figure out what a career path is for you in the future. So my IDP is a really, really good tool for that, and I have used that to sort of whittle down some of the interests that I had, and try to pinpoint what it is that would make me happy. So I would highly recommend it, and it's free to use for anyone on the internet. Is LinkedIn Premium worth it? I have had mixed experiences with people. So I do not have LinkedIn Premium right now. I just have the normal free version of it. I have had LinkedIn Premium in the past. So let's start with what additional features LinkedIn Premium provides, right? So LinkedIn Premium has a bunch of features that includes sending unlimited in-mails to anyone that you want. And if you apply to a job, it helps to show you where you stand in comparison to the competition. So say 50 people with a bachelor's have applied to the job, as opposed to 2 people with a PhD, and the job requires a PhD, then you know that you're higher, that your chances of getting hired may be higher. May being the word on there. So those are some of the things that LinkedIn Premium offers. I am not exactly sure how beneficial that is, because ultimately, having a professional network in place, knowing people in the company that you want to apply to, and things like that, those are probably the things that are going to influence your job search more than LinkedIn Premium, I think. This is based on my experience. How relevant are the stats on LinkedIn? I'm not sure. I don't really know where they get those stats from. That is a very good question. We do not know the source of those statistics. I sometimes it might just be a survey of LinkedIn users, I think, because I've had LinkedIn reach out to me and ask me about salary and stuff, and when they get that from a bunch of people, then they can compare what a salary is for a particular position or something like that. So I'm not really exactly sure about where they get their stats from. Any tips for interviews? I'm trying to get to science communication, but so far just been to interviews and I find them so different from academic interviews. Uh, some is this are these positions that you are interviewing for, are they non-profits, or are these biotechnology or pharmaceutical companies? What maybe if we can understand a little bit more about that, I may be able to give you more of a specific answer. Have you done informational interviews on a job fair? I have not, frankly, been to a lot of job fairs, so I don't think I can answer that. Based on some of the things, mostly what I have heard from people is that job fairs have usually people from HR who may or may not know a lot of the background on the technical stuff about your background, but it is a good place to send in your resume, make some contacts with recruiters, and try to understand from them what positions might be open in the company that may not be advertised on job boards at that point. It's mostly crowdsourcing. Okay, LinkedIn stats depends on what the users tell it. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was. Thank you, Kedar Divetia, for that answer. So yeah, LinkedIn apparently just depends on what people tell them. Afisoon says she's been interviewing for pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, those can be a little tricky, especially since if you're going out of academia. So that's where I say, get in touch with people who are in the industry, even if it is not in the role that you are in right now. Just talking to people in industry will give you an idea of the kind of language that they speak in. So people in academia and in industry seem to speak really different languages. In academia, we are very focused on the science. In industry, they want to know more about the business side of it, like how you can help them increase their profits or reach more patients and things like that. So you might want to know how to talk in an industry interview, and for that you may want to connect with people who are in the industry to get to know that language. Do you have a script that you use while reaching out to someone for informational interviews? Yes, and I was going to come to that. So like if you are reaching out to you found someone on LinkedIn who, say in case of Afisoon's example, is someone who works in medical affairs for a pharmaceutical company, you can reach out to them with a brief message. And if it's someone that you are not already connected to on LinkedIn, make sure you include a personalized message in your request to connect, because the "hi, please connect with me on LinkedIn" message really does not work. Trust me. You have to have a personalized message. You have to tell the person, if you know them from someplace, like, hey, I saw you at this conference, or you were a speaker at this place that I attended, and I really liked your talk on that subject, and I would like to know more about it, because this is what I am interested in. So please connect with me so I can learn more from you. Something personalized is going to help you connect with that person more than just the template version that LinkedIn sends out. So my script usually is, I briefly introduce myself saying, hey, I was a postdoc here, or I used to be a neuroscientist. I'm interested in science communication. I see that this is the experience that you have, that you work here, and you have a background similar to what I have, and I would be interested in learning more about what some of the things that you did to transition into this career of your choice. So I would say break down that introductory script into 2 or 3 main points. One is briefly introduce yourself. Second is tell them what your connection is to that person. If you know them, if you know them from somewhere, or if someone has asked you to get in touch with that person, put it on there in the first or the second line itself. And then let them know where your interest is right now in like a short sentence or so. And then the end with a specific ask. And I say specific because if you tell someone, hey, just want to know more about your career, that is a very broad question, and they probably won't know what it is exactly that you're looking for, and they won't know where to start. And if someone gets confused, then it increases the chances of you not hearing back from them, because they just don't know what it is that you want from them. So make sure that you have a very, very specific ask. Tell them what you're interested in, tell them where you are in your career search, and what it is exactly that you are hoping to learn from them. Hey, I would want to schedule a 20 to 30 minute conversation with you, and give them the option of how they want to connect with you, either on the phone or via email or on Skype. Leave it up to them. Just make them as comfortable as you can, because this is someone that you don't really know. And then ask them a few specific questions so they know what it is that you want from them. Hey, how did you use your skills to transition into this position? What are some of your daily activities? What are some of the challenges that you face? Just give them a few specific questions that they then know how it is that they can help you. Okay, so that was the script. Sorry, I may have missed a few questions. How do introverts approach people for informational interviews? I think informational interviews are a good place actually for introverts, as opposed to going to a networking event, because this is going to be a one-on-one conversation. And introverts are good at that. Introverts are good at one-on-one conversations. What they are not good at is being thrown into a crowd and trying to make a conversation with a bunch of random people. So I think for introverts, informational interviews are actually a really good starting point and a very good way for them to start building their network. How soon do you follow up if someone doesn't answer your request? That is a good question. So once you send them a request, majority of the time you may not hear back from people on the first try. I would usually give it a week or so, a week or week and a half, and then follow up again, saying maybe just something basic, that I had tried to get in touch with you, and try to jog their memory of what it was, because they may or may not remember. So just again, briefly introduce yourself, tell them your interest, and tell them what your specific ask is. And if in that second follow-up, maybe you found something on their LinkedIn that you think might be of interest to them, you found that they, for example, do research on lung cancer, and you came across this interesting article on lung cancer, maybe include that in that follow-up email. So it might, that might be something that catches their interest and makes you get back to them about your specific ask. So yeah, I think a week or a week and a half for follow-up. But after, if someone doesn't reply 2 times, or I would say 3 is probably the max, you should take a hint and stop bugging them, I guess. Because not everyone has the time or the willingness to connect with you and try to help you. Although most people are super helpful, at least in my experience so far, people are willing to help and give advice and share their experiences with someone who asks for it. Okay, so some of the things to keep in mind when you are reaching out to people is always, be polite, be appreciative of their time, realize that they are doing this as a favor to you. They could be doing anything else with their time, but they are going to take those 20 or 30 minutes out of their time in the day to talk to you about themselves or their career path that might help you in the future. So please be polite, please be appreciative of people's times. If you tell them that it's going to be a 20 or 30-minute conversation, please make sure it does not go beyond 30 minutes. So be mindful of their time. Okay, let's see what else. So how do you prepare for the interview? One of the first steps to figuring that out is to figure out what it is that you want out of this conversation. What do you want to know? Do you want to know how this person went from graduate school to a science communication position in a pharmaceutical industry? Do you want to know what some of the challenges were that they have to encounter? How did they decide to pursue this position? Do you want to know more about the company, what it is specifically that you want to know? Be sure of that. And it can be a number of things. It doesn't have to fall into one category. So make a list of those things, and then come up with questions that will help you that will help that other person answer whatever it is that you want to know. And please make sure they are open-ended questions, because those are the ones that are going to give you the most information. A yes or no question is not going to tell you anything. Kedar Divitya is asking, do you recommend meeting in person or phone call? How do you ensure that you are not just coming off as too aggressive? That is a good point. So for the first question, meeting in person or a phone call, it's something that you give the other person that choice, and that's how you don't come off as aggressive. Where if you tell them, oh, I want to meet you in person at this coffee shop at this time, that's probably not going to fly with them. So give them the option, tell them that you are happy to schedule a 20 to 30 minute, and I keep saying 20 to 30 because that seems like a time that people might be willing to take out of their schedule. It doesn't seem like a lot of time. It's not like an hour or 2 hours, but it's good enough for you to get what you want as well. So I think that's a good starting point. And if you have more questions, once you have connected with that person, once you have had that initial conversation, you can always go back and ask them more. But 20 to 30 minutes is usually a good starting point. It's a good amount of time to have coffee, and that's usually if you're going to meet someone in person, maybe coffee is a good place to start as opposed to a lunch or dinner or something. So it depends on that person and how well you know them, whether they want to meet you in person. A lot of my informational interviews so far have been on the phone or through email, because I have reached out to people that I don't really know very well, or who may not be in my geographical area for me to actually go meet them. So for me so far, phone conversations have dominated my informational interviews, and they have been useful. So if you're concerned about an in-person meeting being more useful than an informational interview, I don't think that is necessarily true. It just depends on what you ask that person and how they decide to share it with you. You can come off by not being too aggressive by just being polite and giving them the options, and not forcing your schedule or your opinions on them. And if they don't respond, then you just back off, and that's that, and you find someone else who's willing to share their time with you. Okay, so what are some of the open-ended questions that you can ask? You can ask people how they chose this career path. What were some of the tools and resources that they used to go about narrowing down their career path? What preparations they had to do to transition into a slightly different role? Is there, so for me, if I am trying to transition into, say, a medical writer position, I need to have some knowledge about regulatory processes, about how the FDA works and things like that. And that's something that I came to know when I spoke to people, that, it may be beneficial for me to show those skills in my resume, or if I don't have those skills right now, that I should go out there and find a way to get those skills if that's what the role demands. Hi, Vanshika. Some of the other open-ended questions, what does your day-to-day, what are some of the daily activities that you do? What does your day-to-day life look like? What are the challenges that you encounter in this job? How do you deal with them? Can you tell me something about, the company culture and what the hierarchy is of your organization? How do people climb or get promoted in this role? What are some of the expectations of people who succeed? What are, to succeed in this role, what are the expectations that are demanded, and so on and so forth. So my point is that make sure you ask open-ended questions, and don't just ask someone, hey, do you enjoy your job? And they're just going to say, yes or no. And mostly it's going to be yes, because if they don't know you well enough, they're not going to be comfortable sharing some of the reservations that they may have about their professions. Okay, so what do you do during the interview? So again, it depends on whether this is an in-person interview or a Skype interview or a telephone interview. But please always make sure you are on time. If you have told someone you are going to call them at 12 noon, make sure you call them at 12 noon. It's okay if it's 2 minutes here or there, but don't be like half an hour late and not inform them about it or something. Please be appreciative of people's times, and understand that they are doing this as a favor to you. So please be mindful of people's times. At what stage do you ask for a reference? Definitely not in the first conversation. Especially if it's someone that you don't really know. So if it's someone that you know really well, if it's someone, say for example, that you went to graduate school with and you're friends with, it may be appropriate to ask that person for a reference. But if it's someone that you don't really know very well, if it's someone that your supervisor said, hey, you may benefit from talking to this person because they are in this role that you seem to be interested in, please don't ask that person for a reference on during that first conversation, because that conversation is just going to be about you trying to understand more about the role and about the organization. Referral, yes, I get it, you meant referral. But after you have had that first conversation, you are going to want to follow up with them. That's going to be a very important thing to do. So an informational interview is not intended to be just like a one-time thing. You don't want to just talk to that person once and be like, okay, bye, I got what I want from you and I'm never going to see you again. You want to harbor that relationship. You want to grow that relationship. And the way to do that is to follow up after the informational interview. So after the interview is done, and I was, maybe I'll come back to this a little bit later, because I just wanted to talk about, what to do during the interview. But maybe I can just talk about it now. So to follow up during, after the interview, just after you've spoken to someone or you've met them in person, send them a thank you email or a thank you note, thanking them for their time, and go over some of the things that they discussed with you, so they know that you have understood what they were trying to convey. And it also, if there has been some misunderstanding in the way that you have understood something, that will also help clarify that if you try to sort of recommunicate to them what your understanding was. So include that in your thank you note, and you should follow up periodically. So it usually helps having some sort of an Excel sheet where you can keep track of when it was that you spoke to a person, what it was you spoke about, and when you followed up with them. So that makes it easier for the follow up. Um, so when you follow up with them, say 2 or 3 weeks after having the informational interview, you can tell them what specific steps you've taken that they recommended to you, so that you know that you are really invested in this career path, and that their time that they invested in talking to you hasn't gone to waste. You are following through on some of the suggestions that were made to you. Another way that you could follow up is, like I said, when you do the informational interview, try to not hog the conversation. You want them to do most of the talking, so you ask your open-ended questions, and then you sit back and listen to what they're saying, so that way you can also get a feel for what some of their interests are, and you can use those in your follow-up, where you can try to send them stuff that you maybe read about that you thought will be interesting to them. If they are like a top executive at some company, and some other you read something about a merger, send them the article. It may be useful to them, it may not be, but it'll help you keep those lines of conversation open, and it'll help keep them reminded of you, so they won't forget you. So having that follow-up is important. And then if you continue to have more of those conversations, and you build up that professional rapport, maybe further down the line they themselves will offer to refer you. So this is what happened to me during one of the informational interviews that I had recently. I reached out to someone on LinkedIn in a position that I was interested in, and they were really, really helpful. They told me all about the position, and they were the ones who said, if you want to apply to this position, I would be happy to refer you. And if they do that, that's okay, because that's not you being super aggressive or pushy. That's something that they offer to do for you, which is a really nice thing for someone to do for you. And if they offer to do that for you, that's great. But at least in the first conversation, if you don't really know someone very well, I wouldn't ask for a referral. I would ask for a referral maybe, later on, when you have established a fairly professional relationship, where you are keeping in touch with them regularly and they sort of know you. Because if they don't really know you, it's like them putting their reputation on the line for you to refer you to a job. So unless someone knows you well enough, they are going to hesitate to ask to provide a referral for you. So yeah. So I think I sort of jumped ahead to the follow-up part, but I just briefly wanted to talk about what to do during the interview. Like I said, please show up on time, even if it's on a Skype call or a phone conversation, or if you're meeting someone in person. Please show up on time. If you're meeting someone in person, and you are meeting someone for a coffee or something, please offer to pay them. They may decline, but you making that gesture it gives a very good impression. It makes them know that you're not taking them or their time for granted, and that you want to repay them for their gratitude, repay them for their time in some way. So it's always polite to offer to pay for their coffee if you are meeting someone in person. If you are talking to someone on the phone call, please be courteous, and you can also, again, you may think that you don't have anything at this point to offer to them, but tell them that you are open to helping them in any way that they can. And you never know how and when you'll be able to help someone and repay the favor. And then the most important part is to be attentive. Even if you have prepared a list of questions, don't be whole and soul 100% focused on your list of questions. Be attentive to what they are saying, and try to make it a conversation. Don't make it seem like an interview. Don't make them feel like they're a prisoner being grilled by a lawyer, because that's not what you want. Make it a conversation based on what answers they provide. Frame questions that are in keeping in line with those answers. And yes, you can ask the questions that you came prepared with as well, but don't ignore what they're saying. So for someone like me, it helps me to take notes. And if that's something that helps you, please ask them if it's okay. If you can, especially in an in-person interview, ask them if it's okay if you take notes, because you don't want to like have your head buried writing all the time, because that's going to hamper your connection with the other person. But if you want to take a few notes, then ask them about it. And I think most of the time people are okay with you know you taking notes. Yeah, so I think that's all that I had for you guys, and we are kind of nearing the 1 hour mark. But if you guys have any more questions, please send them in, and I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability so far. And if I have missed any questions that you guys already sent, please send them again, because maybe I was too busy gabbing and I missed some of your questions. Afsoon, good luck with your interviews, and I hope you can get in touch with some industry professionals, and maybe after that you can have a better sense of what industry interviews look like. Thank you, Kedar. Thank you for asking all of your questions. It's really fun when it's a conversation as opposed to just a one-way street. So, and I'm so glad that all of you guys are joining from all these different countries. One other thing, so I have been speaking about this kind of coming from what the culture is in the United States, and I'm not sure how this would be different in some other countries. I know, like for example, in India, people are a little scared of their bosses and stuff. So I don't know how, you know, how you would go about asking your boss to refer you or recommend someone that you think might be useful to you. But yeah, if you feel there's some cultural barriers, then I will be really interested in knowing what they are, and if we can help overcome them. All right, so you guys have been a wonderful audience. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to me today. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to connect with me on Instagram. My handle is at Raeesa_G. That's RAEESA_G. I'm also on Twitter at Neuro Raeesa. That's Neuro, NEURO, Raeesa, RAEESA. And I'll be happy to answer any more questions that you have. Thank you, guys.